following is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee.
Welcome into Main Street Sports Today, the Thursday edition. I'm Maurice Patton. Chris Yao is somewhere between here and Gatlinburg. Heck, I don't know. But sitting in for Yao, we have the legendary Tommy Bryan, sports editor of the Wilson Post, 2020 Tennessee Sports Writers Association Hall of Fame inductee. And I will warn you, this thing could get off the rails at any point with the two of us behind the mic. But Tommy, I appreciate you sitting in with us. Chris is supposed to be back tomorrow, but we aired a best of show on Tuesday. Hope people enjoyed that. We took yesterday off, but with everything coming up this weekend, felt like we needed to have a show today, and Tommy was gracious enough to sit in with us. And again, TB, appreciate you coming in. I know you got a million things to do, but this gives you 1,000,001, I guess.
Well, and I don't mind helping out, and big shoes to fill with Yao being out of pocket. I understand that, and just to try to give the show a little balance, and just try to throw my 2 cents in whenever I can. And you're the captain of this ship, and I'm more than happy to be your Gilligan.
Well, I'm sure it'll be more than 2 cents. Like I said, we've got a run of show here, but between me and Tommy, there's no telling which way we're liable to go. We do have Paul Wade of Donaldson Christian lined up to come on with us later in the show as our Coach's Corner guest, presented by From the Heart Cafe out of Chapel Hill. We usually have her on Wednesdays, but since we didn't have a show yesterday, we have Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Bristol talking a little NASCAR in light of the big things that went on this past weekend out in Kansas. Wanted to be sure and get Heather's input on Bubba Wallace's big victory.
And Super Speedway found out they've got their date back for the 2023 season. The Nashville Super Speedway got that June 23, 24, 25 date. We had that in the Wilson Post late yesterday that NASCAR's announced that date anyway, and I think the main schedule's coming out. The rest of the schedule probably coming out tomorrow.
Okay, and we can talk more to her about that as well. I'm sure she'll have some insight. She is our NASCAR expert. Later in the show, we're going to talk a little high school football, as we usually do about this time. So go over the Main Street Preps picks for Week 5 and see what Nostradamus has to say about some games down here in the southern Middle Tennessee area in particular. But before we get any further, we have a fairly lengthy schedule of high school events today. Yesterday's results weren't so much, but let us go ahead and give you the rundown.
This is the rundown.
In volleyball action on Wednesday, it was Eagleville defeating Watertown 3-1, Gallatin with a 3-0 win over White House Heritage, and Station Camp down Liberty Creek 3-1. Girls soccer action, Page Blank Beach 4-0. In professional baseball on Wednesday, it was the Pirates 10, the Reds 4. St. Louis with a 4-1 win over the Brewers. Philadelphia 6, the Miami Marlins 1. Chicago Cubs continue to do the Braves favors with a 6-3 win over the Mets, and the Braves continue to not be able to take advantage with a 4-1 loss in San Francisco. Meanwhile, the Dodgers, having clinched the NL West Division Championship, I know Tommy's excited about that, fell to Arizona yesterday 5-3. In minor league baseball action, it was the Sounds 12, the Jumbo Shrimp 4. Today's action on the gridiron, 7 o'clock kicks at Clay County as they host Joe Burns, and at Mount Juliet Christian as they host Grace Christian out of Franklin. Volleyball action today. No times on these. Check your local listings. Zion Christian's at Franklin Christian. Moore County is at Culleoka. Forest goes to Eagleville. Lincoln County hosts Shelbyville. Riverdale hosts Smyrna. Rockville hosts Blackman. Cookville is at Siegel. Oakland goes to Stewart's Creek. Community is at Marshall County. Cannon County is at Murfreesboro Central. Lawrence County is at Tullahoma. Harpeth goes to Santa Fe. Hampshire hosts Summertown. Loretta hosts Mount Pleasant. Independence hosts Spring Hill. University School of Nashville goes to Columbia Academy. Providence Christian is at Franklin Road Academy. Christ Presbyterian Academy is at Father Ryan, and Ezel Harding is at Good Pasture. In girls soccer action today, Gallatin plays at Bearden. Forest is at Cannon County. Shelbyville goes to Coffee County. Smyrna is at Laverne. McGavock goes to Lebanon. Smith County is at Watertown. Wilson Central hosts Hume Fogg. Blackman hosts Siegel. East Robertson entertains Lead Academy. Kip is at Merrill Hyde. Oakland goes to Riverdale. Rockvale hosts Mount Juliet. Overton is at STEM Academy. Sycamore is at Cheatham County. Republic goes to East Hickman. McEwen travels to Harpeth. Hendersonville hosts Clarksville. Liberty Creek takes on visiting Portland. Station Camp guests White House. Hickman County goes to Cornersville. Huntersville is at Glencliff. The Middle Tennessee Golden Eagles will play at Hillsboro. Greenbrier is at Hillwood. Brentwood goes to Centennial. Franklin hosts Ravenwood. Zion Christian goes to Lawrence County. Giles County is at Marshall County. Spring Hill takes on visiting Murfreesboro Central. Wayne County hosts Loretto. Montgomery Central goes to Fairview. Columbia Central is at Independence. Nolensville is at Summit. Culleoka is at Columbia Academy. Valor Collegiate goes to Franklin Road Academy. Providence Christian hosts Battleground Academy. Harpeth Hall goes to Brentwood Academy. Ensworth is at Christ Presbyterian Academy. Father Ryan goes to Lipscomb Academy. Pope Prep hosts St. Cecilia. Mount Juliet Christian goes to Donaldson Christian. Middle Tennessee Christian is at Friendship Christian. Good Pasture hosts Davidson Academy. And Nashville Christian hosts Ezel Harding. Short Major League Baseball slate tonight of local interest. The Phillies continue their series, probably wrap up their series at Miami. That's a 5:40 start. The Pirates go to Citi Field and take on the Mets. That's a 6:20 start. And at 6:45, the Cardinals face the visiting Reds. Also at 7:05 Central Time in Jacksonville, the Nashville Sounds continue their series against the Jumbo Shrimp. NFL Thursday night action, 7:15 on Amazon Prime. I don't know if I get that or not, but it doesn't matter because I won't be here. Anyway, the Chargers are at Kansas City, and at 8 o'clock on ESPN tonight, the Las Vegas Aces can close out the WNBA Best of 5 Championship Series. They are up 2-0. They go to the Connecticut Sun. Again, at Games 3 of the WNBA Finals, Best of 5 Series, Las Vegas at the Connecticut Sun. That's an 8 o'clock tip on ESPN. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your rundown.
Mo, that was impressive.
Well, typically we split that up, but you know,
you do what you got to do, I guess.
You do what you got to do. Bingo. So yeah, and actually it didn't take as much time as I had anticipated. So we can get to our top story. And Tommy, I'm sure you and any other SEC football aficionado saw the news that Oklahoma's games, I guess, here over the next couple of seasons that they were supposed to play UT and Georgia, those games have been pushed back until such time as the Sooners actually get into the SEC. So Oklahoma, I think, has picked up SMU to replace Georgia, and I'm not sure what they've done to replace Tennessee. Also not sure what Georgia and Tennessee have done in light of that. But
well, Mo, talk if you would a little bit about what brought all that about, because a plan was in place.
Well, I don't know that they had necessarily dealt with the fact that, you know, with Texas and Oklahoma scheduled to come in 24, 25, I guess 24 is what they're looking at now. I think the concern was that those return games wouldn't necessarily get played or would be interrupted. And so the conference office kind of stepped in and said, y'all just need to chill on this for now. And, you know, it's kind of unfortunate. The SEC's reasoning is that the second game in each series was to take place. Hang on just a second. Stop. The second game in each series was to take place after Oklahoma joins the SEC in 2025. So Georgia was supposed to play at Oklahoma next year, and Oklahoma was supposed to come back to Neyland Stadium in 2024. Georgia would have returned to Norman in 31, and Tennessee's second game of that series had the second game hadn't been set yet. So they just decided to push all that back until Oklahoma and Texas actually get here.
Everybody's got these long-term contracts, and if my school wants to play your school, we can't do it next year or the following year. We've got to bank that thing 7 or 8 years down the road.
But here's what's funny about that is we saw, during COVID-19 and everything, that games can be scheduled pretty much on the fly.
Well, exactly right.
So, I mean, I don't know that we have to go 7 and 8 years out necessarily. And with all the realignment that's going on and promises to continue, probably, I'm not sure how good an idea it is to schedule that far out. Oklahoma will play SMU next year and play in Dallas against the Mustangs in 27. Georgia will play Ball State next year, and I don't know what that second game looks like, and no announcement has been made on Tennessee's part as to what they're going to do to fill in for Oklahoma in 24. I guess they got a little time. So.
Well, as long as they're not picking up teams from the Sun Belt East,
then that's
going to be okay.
I think you're going to be okay. That's probably not a good idea right now. So stay away from the Sun Belt East.
Well, Georgia Southern, Marshall, and
App State.
Good grief!
And how about
they're taking the money and kicking their rear ends?
Best of both worlds for those folks. How about App State getting College Game Day on Saturday?
I think that's big. That is really big. And I don't know about Troy as a matchup. Troy traditionally has been, very good. I don't have any idea what they're doing right now, but maybe App State, Georgia Southern a little bit later in the season would have really been something to have.
I think that would have really been something. I think that would have been ideal for all parties. Two things, though. One, if they kind of lose a little steam between now and then College Game Day doesn't quite carry the same luster at that point. Two, I think that's Michigan-Ohio State weekend.
Oh, there you go. So. And there's always a local connection. And App State, the starting center for Appalachian State is Luke Smith, who was an all-state player at Friendship Christian as a center. And he's starting for Appy State. And his dad and his uncle make a trip to all of their games, and I bumped into the dad after their big win at A&M. And
I'm sure he bumped into everybody after their big win at A&M.
They were just nuts. And again, you bring home the big check, which helmets are almost $400 a pop. So you're getting $1.5 million to go play these people, and you're winning the football game.
And you're getting the win.
Yeah.
You can't ask for any more than that. And there is always a local connection. Speaking of, Troy, wasn't Levi Brown on their coaching staff at one time? Is he still down there?
Levi Brown from Mount Juliet was a quarterback there for several years, and then went back as a graduate assistant and a quarterback coach. And I think he's at Valdosta State now as the offensive coordinator.
Okay.
But Levi was a heck of a quarterback at Mount Juliet before Roger Perry and Trey Perry were there. And that team had Michael Jasper on it, who had a cup of coffee with the Buffalo Bills, who's now the head coach at Bethel in the Mid-South Conference. And they had Levi at quarterback. They had a great looking team picture that year. They weren't very good, but that was an impressive looking football team.
They look good getting off the bus, huh?
Yeah, and they let Jasper get off the bus first.
And Levi second.
Yeah, and Levi could throw it through a car wash and not get it wet. Set all kinds of records. Of course, at Troy State, they throw the ball so much that the next guy is probably going to set records every year or every other year. But I have no idea how they are this year. But for College Game Day to focus on a couple of teams, the non-Power Fives,
Right.
A great step for all of college football, I think.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back with segment 2, which involves Coach's Corner, and we have teed up Donaldson Christian Academy coach Paul Wade. So stay with us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll be right back.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee. Because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back into Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Before we get to Coach's Corner and Donaldson Christian Academy coach Paul Wade, got a little hardware that we need to hand out, as we usually do on Thursdays. Our Into Win Life Southern Middle Tennessee Team of the Week, presented by Custom Stone Handlers, is the Zion Christian football team. The Eagles improved to 2-1 over this past weekend and did so in a big way with a 50-6 win over Tri-Cities Academy. Like I said, their second win of the year. They are 2-1 now, and I wish I had their schedule in front of me so I could tell you what they've got coming up this weekend. But Zion Christian football under first-year coach Kurt Bethard is our Into-Win Life Southern Middle Tennessee Team of the Week, and our Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint, MTBJ Southern Middle Tennessee Athlete of the Week, also from Zion Christian. Ava Corbin, the senior forward, scored 7 goals in 3 games, along with 3 assists in a 9-6 win and in a 3-3 draw against Culleoka. The 9-6 win was over Richland, I believe. Had 5 goals in that one and 3 assists as well. So the scoring machine, Ava Corbin, is our Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Southern Middle Tennessee Athlete of the Week. Congratulations to all the folks out at Zion for these 2 big honors. And now, joining us from Donaldson Christian Academy, the defending Division 2A state champions, Coach Paul Wade. Coach, good evening. Good afternoon.
How you guys doing?
We're doing well. How about you?
Good.
Great. Big game coming up this weekend against Columbia Academy as you guys get started in region play, and CA off to a pretty good start as well, 2-1 now. But you guys coming in at 2-2, the Wildcats. And it's been a little up and down for y'all, I guess. What do you like? What don't you like through? Coach, you still there?
You got me?
Okay. What do you like through this 4-4 start for your Wildcats?
Well, I think we're improving. I think we're over the shock and awe of last year. Trying to get a new group of kids to not be distracted by what occurred last year and try to focus on us this year has been a challenge. I thought we got it out of the way week 1, and unfortunately faced Friendship a couple weeks ago, who's a really, really good team, and probably put way too much emotion and emphasis on that game and just really didn't play well. A lot of that had to do with Friendship, and a lot of it had to do with us. What I do like is that we have a unique situation where we have a bunch of seniors. We have 8 this year on a 27-man roster, and we have 2 freshmen and 3 sophomores that start. So we have a bunch of old guys that start, and we have a bunch of young guys that start. So that's why we kind of had the ups and downs, if you will, as you mentioned earlier. So trying to see that come together has been unique.
Folks, and you've got, it's those numbers are going to dictate that you go a little young, I guess.
They are. There's no doubt. The fact that our roster is thin anyway, we got to go with what we've got. But we've got some talented young kids, and they've been able to step in and fill those roles for us.
Coach, when you got those young guys into the mix, I guess you and the staff have to have a certain amount of patience, knowing that at some point something's going to go a little wacky with the young guys.
Well, we talk about having patience. We don't always exemplify patience. This group of seniors, we have 4 seniors who moved up as 8th graders on that 0-10 team and started immediately. So I always talk about them as being 5-year starters. So they ought to be able to click through this stuff day in and day out with greatest of ease, if you will. So what I've asked them to do is bring along these young guys who were playing middle school football last year and kind of help incorporate them into what Friday night football is like and what practice is like and how much more tedious everything is. Because if it doesn't work out, we're not going to have the season that we hope to have coming off of last year.
Did you know early on that the 2 sophomores and a freshman were going to play, or as the season got ready to start, is that you just had to plug those guys in and go?
The two. Well, no, all 5 of them, the 2 freshmen and the 3 sophomores, we knew from. We don't do spring practice because we do a lot in the summer. So we knew basically from the middle of May what it looked like. We've moved guys around, say, from a position to a different position. But as far as those 5 guys, and 4 of them didn't go start on defense. The only one that doesn't start is the quarterback. We knew they were going to play important roles, and we knew based off having 15 seniors last year, there was going to be a lot of open spots. So it was kind of who was going to take them, and those guys stepped up really fast and took those positions.
DCA Coach Paul Wade joining us here on Coach's Corner, presented by From the Heart Cafe out in Chapel Hill. Renee Hart and her folks taking care of you, and now they have breakfast as well. So you can slide over there anytime and get well fed right before you go to Henry Horton. So check out From the Heart Cafe over in Chapel Hill. Coach, you talked about the shock and awe coming off of the state championship campaign and that kind of thing. Who are some of the guys that helped you get there that are back this time around?
That's a great question. And there's a good group of them, led by senior captains David Lyles, who plays offensive defensive tackle, our kicker, Braden Ducharme, who's also a team captain, Ashton Jones, a junior running back who was Mr. Everything last year for us, also a captain, LJ Tolbert, an offensive defensive lineman, Brady Russell, fullback linebacker, Stephen Altum, tight end linebacker. Those were the guys who played really important roles in last year's state championship, who were back and haven't missed a beat. Obviously, their surrounding company looks a lot different than it did last year, with four of those guys going on to play college ball. But they're bringing those young guys along. And, we talk about the high school football season being 3 seasons. We talk about season 1 through 5, which will finish up this week, season 6 through 10, and then the playoffs. And we hope to be playing our best football when the season 3 rolls around.
Coach, it looks like when you guys are playing well, you're putting up points. 51-6 against Ezel in week 2, and 50-6 against White House Heritage last week. What did you see that you like, that you hope to be able to carry over as you start region play tomorrow night against visiting Columbia Academy?
Well, we stayed on our blocks, and we finished plays in the first 2 games, or games 1 and 3, I should say. It was really weird. We would have 10 guys blocked, and there'd be 1 guy sneak through and make a tackle. We would have a 20-yard play, and there'd be a holding call. All of a sudden, in game 1, we found ourselves behind. We started pressing, threw a pick 6. It kind of put the game away. And game 3, we actually jumped up quick, 2-0, if you will, and then it kind of snowballed after that. Our communities are real close. Our kids know each other. The fact that they're in another region, they're still probably our biggest rival friendship. And we had kind of given it to them the last 3 times we'd played, so they were due one. And we're still getting over that mentality of just showing up. Last year, the group of kids had a unique aura and a unique swagger about them, if you will, that they went into every week, calm, cool, and collect. And this group, you can kind of tell they're still trying to figure it out. Okay, even as we go into week 5, the nervousness, do we really know what's going to happen? How are the young guys going to be? And we're just trying to focus on everybody doing their job and letting things play out.
Coach, Columbia Academy, talk to us a little bit about what you see when you line up on both sides of the football with Columbia Academy.
I see a much improved team. I can tell you that. They had some very talented individuals last year on their team, but as a group, they lacked in some continuity. That's a little different this year. I know Coach Anderson does a good job. Obviously, when you're as successful as he's been in softball and stuff, he probably brings a little different demeanor, intensity to those guys, and you can kind of see that in the way they're playing. I was a little surprised actually when I saw their preseason information. They didn't have as many guys as I thought they would have, which made me feel a bit better because it seems like everybody's low in the numbers this year on the rosters. But the group he's got is very talented. 24, 5, those guys are players. 24, we had to deal with him last year as a freshman, and obviously the next 2 years ahead of that guy are going to be outstanding for them. Their line is big. They're a little different schematically. Not sure who's doing the offense for them this year, but they're a little different schematically than they were last year. They're a little more spread, trying to spread you out and run the ball. Not necessarily spread you out to throw the ball, but spread it out to run it. And then on defense, in the past, they've been odd man fronts, even man fronts. And it seems like they've settled in on an even man front this year. and using some very athletic guys on his second and third row to get to the football.
24, by the way, is Columbia Academy sophomore Monte Baldwin, who in 3 games has rushed for 447 yards and 7 touchdowns. So he and Ashton Jones could be putting on a show tomorrow night up in Donaldson when Columbia Academy travels to Donaldson Christian. Coach Wade, appreciate you taking some time with us. I'm sure you got a walkthrough or something to get to, and we don't want to keep you from it, but we appreciate you visiting with us here on Coach's Corner, presented by From the Heart Cafe over in Chapel Hill.
Yes, sir. Appreciate what you guys do for high school football.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day, Coach.
Sir.
We're going to take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. When we come back, we will visit with our NASCAR expert, Heather Williams. Stay with us.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back into Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Maurice Patton. We are joined by guest host, Wilson Post sports editor Tommy Bryan, sitting in for Chris Yao, who is, again, somewhere between here and Gatlinburg, should be back with us tomorrow. So, Tommy, we are now going to go to our NASCAR expert, Heather Williams with WCYB TV out of Bristol. Wanted to be sure we got Heather on this week because one of her favorite drivers did something big at one of her favorite tracks this past weekend and did not want to miss out on her input on that, as Bubba Wallace picked up his first full victory winning at Kansas without any rain. So, Heather, good afternoon.
Hey, Mo. Yeah, if anyone follows me on Twitter, then they saw that I tweeted out the Dancing Bee Girl from the 90s No Rain song from Blind Melon, because, yeah, there's nothing that can be said about that win by Bubba Wallace other than the fact that he just went out there and won it. He had one of the fastest cars. He dominated the final segment of the race, leading 55 laps, and I think something like the last 40 or something like that. So no question that he had the best car, no question that the 45 team was the best team out on the track. They still made a mistake in the pits, and Bubba was able to recover and drive right back up to the front. So kudos on them. I think this team, which was the 23 team, all they've done really is changed the stickers for the playoffs so that they compete for an owner's championship. I think they've done everything they needed to do all year long. They finally put it all together and won a race. And now Bubba has catapulted that team from 12th, I believe, in the owner's championship standings when the playoffs start to now 5th, and right in the thick of it with a chance to win an owner's championship. Even though Bubba can't win a driver's championship, there could still be some hard work going to 23XI. They've got a chance.
Well, I think at this point it's kind of a team sport, and I guess the owner's championship is the most important thing for 23XI right now. Heather, where are you?
I'm at the Bristol Motor Speedway right now. ARCA Series practice is going on. Truck Series practice will start here in about an hour, and yeah, it's race week. We're ready to go.
So it's not just NASCAR for you. Any fast cars, you're there. Huh?
Well, it's not just the Cup Series. I mean, the ARCA Series is considered a developmental series for the NASCAR series, and then of course the trucks is the kind of the AA baseball of NASCAR, if you will. So yeah, this is a big week for Bristol. The size of the town will like triple or something over the weekend. So we're out here for all the races, all the events.
That's fantastic. Go ahead, Tommy.
Well, Heather, I was going to ask you, NASCAR released the fact yesterday that Nashville Super Speedway gets the same date for 2023, that June 23, 24, 25, that around Father's Day, that weekend is what it was in the very beginning. What are you hearing about pluses, minuses from that track, that operation that's in my backyard?
Well, I think that the drivers really liked running on the intermediate tracks in this next-gen car. When NASCAR used to go to the big track, the Super Speedway in Nashville, with the Xfinity cars, then the, I think, Nationwide Series it was called at the time, it was a great crowd. It was always a lot of fun, but the racing wasn't always that great. These new cars really put on a good show on those super fast speedways, intermediate-sized tracks. So I think drivers are really excited about the potential of the Nashville Super Speedway. The race was a really entertaining race this past season. I think the only complaint would be the weather, but anywhere in the South, you're either going to have really hot weather or chance of showers over the summer, so it can't really be avoided that much, because if they're not in Nashville, they're in Bristol and it's raining here as well or whatever. So I think it's great. I think it's great for the sport. Nashville is an amazing racing market. It's one that NASCAR has wanted to get into for a long time. That's why they started having their postseason banquet there. And they also made that announcement last week that they will continue to have it there this season. I think it's great for the sport. Nashville and NASCAR just seem to go together.
Well, you know, the folks here in the racing community are kind of sitting on pins and needles, hoping that an agreement between SMI and the city of Nashville comes to fruition, that SMI can get in there and rework that Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway to perhaps give Nashville 2 Cup races.
Yeah, I think that's the dream. I think that's what everybody wants. I think that if it came down to an either or, they would probably end up, I think most people would want them to end up at the fairgrounds. But the racing was so good at the big track, I don't see why it can't be both. There's certainly dates on the schedule that could be reassigned. SMI owns a lot of tracks. They own a lot of dates. So they could definitely take a date from another track that's maybe underperforming and give a second date to the fairgrounds in Nashville. I think race fans everywhere are kind of crossing their fingers that the fairgrounds come back to life, especially after what they've seen happen at North Wilkesboro Speedway and the way SMI has really brought that back to life, and they're now bringing the All-Star race there next season. And that restoration project was announced after the one for the fairgrounds, and so I think really the only thing that's holding it back, I hate to say it, is the city of Nashville and kind of their thoughts and their plans for that area around there. If they can get that worked out, then I think it's a done deal that at least the All-Star race maybe in 24 ends up at the fairgrounds at the minimum, but maybe a full-on race.
Well, and we here in Wilson County, Middle Tennessee, have just been exposed to SMI as a track owner for a little over a year now. They don't do things halfway, do they?
Oh, no. If you look at Bruton Smith's tracks, they are some of the nicest facilities on the Cup Series. And when you talk to drivers and to fans, they always talk about the experience. I mean, they don't leave anything unthought of or uncovered, even down to the smallest detail of if you covered a race out there, they run shuttles for the media and all of our stuff that we have to bring in. A lot of tracks, you just have to walk your hoofing it with your camera and your tripod and the whole 9 yards. They don't miss a beat. They don't leave any detail unthought of or taken care of. And if they happen to, they will make sure that they will get that corrected.
Well, everybody around here's got their fingers crossed, hoping that the fairgrounds has that rebirth with SMI.
Yeah, and SMI actually took over ownership of the big track too, so they actually own that track as well. So even if they stay out at the big track, and that's the only place they stay at, I think you'll see major improvements to that track as well.
I'm sorry, I got caught up in listening to two NASCAR folks talking about that, and because I mean anybody that's watched the show for any period of time knows I'm not as well versed, let's say, in this as I am in other stuff. But the playoffs continue Saturday night. The Cup playoffs continue Saturday night at Bristol. Is that right, Heather?
They do, and it's gonna be crazy. I can't think of a time since the playoffs have started that only one driver was locked into the second round by the third race of any round, other than maybe the final round where only 4 drivers advanced. So only Christopher Bell is safe. Kevin Harvick probably needs a win to get in, and then the other 14 drivers, put them all in a blender, which Bristol basically is, shake them up and see who can come out in one piece. So it's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy. There's going to be drivers on all sorts of agendas trying to get their way into the next round. And oh, by the way, they're racing for a trophy too. And oh, by the way, there's guys that they're not in the playoffs that can win here at Bristol, like a Michael McDowell, like a Christopher Buescher, that haven't won this year. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun though.
So what you're saying is the eyes of NASCAR will be on Bristol Saturday night.
For sure. A lot of people consider this to be the night race at Bristol, one of the crown jewels of NASCAR. Anyway, you talk about the Coke 600, obviously the Daytona 500. Some people will say Indianapolis, and then the Southern 500 in Darlington. Bristol's right up there. It's one of those races that everybody seems to want to watch, and every driver definitely wants to win.
What kind of crowd are they looking for, Heather?
Well, this race, even when Bristol's kind of struggled in the spring a little bit, the attendance in this race has still been pretty good. Now, this facility holds somewhere in the range of about 140 to 160,000 people. So crowds are really hard to judge, and SMI, being a private company, doesn't really announce attendance. But I would say at its low point, the crowds, we never really dipped below 100,000 here. When I talked to Speedway President Jerry Caldwell earlier in the week, he said ticket sales are way up. So I'm guessing that we could expect a crowd upwards of 120,000 this week.
Well, with that said, Heather, I guess we got to ask you, who's your winner Saturday night?
Well, I'm not going to pick Denny Hamlin for a third straight week, even though I want to, because he's very good here at Bristol, and I do think he's going to get a win in the playoffs, and I do think the Toyotas are going to be up front. My pick this week, and I'll be unveiling it to the people here in Bristol on our race show tomorrow afternoon, is going to be Joey Logano. There is not a driver in the track in the sport that loves a track more than Joey loves Bristol. I always joke, find a man that talks about you the way Joey Logano talks about Bristol, because his eyes just light up. He is just so happy to come here. He's got 2 wins in the night race already in 14 and 15. And I think he wants to establish himself as one of the guys to be in the championship race, or hasn't been really an established leader in the clubhouse as far as the championship goes. And I just really like Logano. Every time he comes here, I think he's a guy to contend with. And I think he can get it done on Saturday.
Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Bristol. Look for give me your Twitter, Heather, so that everybody can keep up with you this weekend.
Yeah, it's WCYB_Heather. So
there we go. Easy. There we go. Sports chick, Heather Williams, joining us as she does every week, talking NASCAR. Heather, we really appreciate it. Have fun this weekend. We will catch back up with you next Wednesday at our appointed time.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's fun.
See you, Heather.
All right. We're going to take a short break. When we come back here on Main Street Sports Today, we're going to talk about one of Tommy's favorite subjects, the Atlanta Braves. No, we'll talk a little Major League Baseball. It'll be Braves dominated, but I'm sure Tommy will have some things to say as well. So stay with us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll be right back.
This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee Sports Editor, three-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSWA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. Yeah, I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
The other guy in Wham married the best-looking girl, Bananarama, so the other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice.
Welcome back into Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Maurice Patton, joined by Wilson Post sports editor, 2020 Tennessee Sports Writers Association Hall of Famer Tommy Bryan, and Chris Yao should be back in saddle tomorrow. Maybe, hopefully. Heck, we might just roll with me and TB. Who knows?
You could do worse.
I could absolutely do worse, no question. Hey, but I'm afraid this would probably be your least favorite segment of the show, because we dedicate a segment every day to Atlanta Braves baseball. Now,
well, you're doing that with my Pantone 294 sign behind, which is the official,
that's what that is.
The official color of Dodger blue. So
I was wondering what that was. Oh,
just a subtle shot to make sure that that we represent both sides of this baseball love affair.
That's fantastic. I did not know what that was. I did not know what the significance of it was. I meant to ask.
And you're smart enough when you don't know. You're like a criminal lawyer. Don't ask a question you don't
know the answer to.
Yeah. So,
boom,
but that's what that is. That's the official Dodger fan club, and it's a travel group. And Bobby Kay and I have traveled with that bunch. We got tickets to see the Dodgers in Atlanta last year, and I think next year we're going to try to go to Pittsburgh, because apparently tickets are pretty easy to get in Pittsburgh.
Imagine that.
Yeah,
I would love to. I would love to go to a game up there. That park looks fantastic.
Well, my expert Woody Hunt, Hall of Fame, 7 or 8 time Hall of Fame baseball coach, retired from Cumberland University, tells me if you go to another ballpark, go to Pittsburgh. Said you won't believe the ambiance, that every seat in there feels like you're right on top of the field. And apparently the only people who don't appreciate that ballpark are the people who live in Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh, yeah. Well, I bet they appreciate the ballpark. I don't think they appreciate the team.
They got that shortstop, though, who looks like a swing guard who can throw it. Now, that guy,
he's got some of the big O'Neal Cruz. He's got some of the highest exit velo numbers in the game this year. Of course.
How did they make that? How did that guy not become a pitcher?
Because he's a pretty good shortstop.
Well, he is, and he can hit it out of sight.
Yeah.
But, with that kind of arm, you can't teach a guy to throw like that.
No, you cannot. Might should have had him on the mound for the Braves in San Francisco, because for the second straight series, they dropped 2 of 3 after dropping 2 of 3 to Seattle. Both times had a chance to salvage those series in Game 3. Both times unable to. Last night was a 4-1 disappointment, but they're still only a half game out of the NL East, which, I mean, glass half full, glass half empty. They could have been out front, because the Cubs really did us a big favor with their sweep, I believe, of the Mets.
Well, the Mets at one point you thought had gone away to hide, and the Braves just kept chugging along, and the Mets kind of flattened out a little bit, and now you've got a race.
Yeah, you've absolutely got a race. And I guess bottom line is, and what I keep trying to convince myself and Yao among other people of, is if we can just keep it right about here until the Mets come to Atlanta next weekend, or in 2 weeks, I think it is, it could get real interesting. So
well, then it's in your own hands.
There you go. And that's all you want.
Yeah.
You know, that's all you want. Meanwhile, you guys sat some guys yesterday, I guess, huh? Freddie Freeman finally took a day off.
It was like that B squad game in spring training where the good guys stay at the complex and the B guys jump on the bus and go play in Scottsdale or somewhere like that. But it was 2-2 going into extra innings. The Dodgers, they're only like 52 games over 500. So it's been fun. I've got the MLB package at the house, and I get to watch those games late at night, which explains partly some of the bags under the eyes staying up and watching those guys play. But Freddie Freeman was forced to take a day off yesterday. Doc Roberts, the manager, called him into the office and said, "We discussed this, Freddie, in the preseason. At some point when the Dodgers clinch, you're going to get a day off or two." And so he finally relented. Pretty strong first three hitters in that lineup when you got Mookie Betts, when you've got Trey Turner and Freddie Freeman. That's some real serious thunder at the top of that lineup.
That ain't bad. That is not bad. Yeah. Dodgers first team to clinch. Is that right?
Yeah.
Nobody else has in Major League Baseball yet, so they are getting ready to put up some pretty big numbers in terms of that win column. It seems like, because I don't see them backing off significantly. Yesterday notwithstanding. So
well, and the arms have really come through, and some guys that I'm a fan, and some guys I haven't heard of been able to come in and fill some spots. Buehler goes down. He's having the elbow procedure, the second time in his career. Tony Gonsolin, who's got 15 or 16 wins, he's had some stiffness in his forearm, and they've shut him down for a little bit. They're bringing him back to throw. And who would have thought Gonsolin would be a guy that they really count on? But Julio Urias, number 7, the little lefty.
We're familiar.
He has really pitched well. And Kershaw, when he's healthy, Kershaw went out there the night they clinched at Arizona and gave him 7 solid innings of about 3 hit ball.
Oh, you've not done what the Dodgers have done this year and not have it clicking in all 3 phases, pitching, offense, and defense. And they've certainly done that. They're going to be the number 1 seed in the National League postseason going away. Nobody really wants to see them. As it stands right now, the Braves would be the number 4 seed as the top wild card, and they would, if seeds hold, catch the Dodgers in the NLDS, I guess. And that's not fun.
Well, you got to have the scorecard now to keep up with all the bracket, and they don't reseed, which I'm thinking at some point that's something they ought to take a look at, Mo. Is perhaps after that first round, let's reseed this thing.
I think there's positives and negatives to that. I can see that. In our specific case this year, the number 2 or the number 3 or the number 4 seed doesn't change a whole lot, I don't guess. I think I would rather see the Mets. Well, let me take this back. I would rather not see the Dodgers any sooner than I have to. And I think that's what everybody's concern would be.
Well, and selfishly, the 1's going to stay the 1, and then you shuffle everything else. And
y'all don't. You're so good. You don't care who you see. So
that's. I didn't want to say that, but
you don't care. You don't care. So yeah, you're thinking about who's going to come out of the AL at this point.
You and I haven't talked about this, but what about some of the rule changes that are going to be in effect next year? because I've umpired before, I always was a big proponent of a double first base. And I know you've seen that experimentally, the first base where it normally goes, and then one in foul territory that's an aiming point for the runner to avoid those spikes stuck in the back of a first baseman's leg. Now they're going to go with an 18-inch base all the way around. What do you think about that?
I still think the double first base would be, because we saw so many incidents both in the college baseball postseason and in the college softball postseason. Batter runners getting ruled out at first base because they were running inside the baseline, injuries that probably could have been prevented.
Max Muncy a year ago.
Max Muncy. You remember the Cliff Floyd injury years ago where he snapped his thumb with a throw that went into the runner's lane, and he reached in for it. And there's a lot that can happen over there that would prevent, and it makes too much sense. I don't know what's stopping it, really.
You paint that base red and you say that's your aiming point as a runner, and the umpire's going by sound anyway.
Sure.
Glove thumps and the ball thumps in the glove, and you hear the thump of the runner
of the bag.
Now, again, an 18-inch base, I don't know what that's going to do. They're talking about it at second base. It's a bigger target, and you won't have a lot of these guys sliding beyond or coming off the bag. They've got a little bit more to grab onto. I don't like head first slides, and in that Dodgers Arizona game last night, Arizona tried to steal home with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, and the guy slides head first into the plate, and he's out. I think if he goes in with a pop-up slide, he might have had a chance to get that. But
I don't understand sliding into home head first specifically when you're going into a guy who's got all that gear on and you've got nothing up top. That's a broken thumb, a broken wrist, a broken finger waiting to happen. It feels like to me.
That's 6 weeks, you're on the shelf. If you go in and you go feet first with a pop up or just a fadeaway slide or something.
Yeah,
like
maybe you can knock a ball loose or, like you said, fade and hit it with your hand as you go by. But that head first into the plate specifically kind of boggles my mind, but I'm not talented enough to worry about it anyway.
The pitch clock is coming to Major League Baseball, and the way I kind of look at that, some of the older heads, maybe they'll have some adjustments to make. Kenley Jansen, for one, who takes his sweet time out there on the mound, and you're living with what I had to deal with when he was with the Dodgers for so many years. But as these guys come up through the minor leagues, Mo, they're all pitching with a pitch clock now. At some point, it's all going to be second nature to those guys.
Yeah. Like you said, it's kind of like youngsters and TikTok these days. They're going to make the adjustment a lot quicker than the veterans, and Kenley's going to be one of the worst. It's going to be interesting to see how that progression takes place with him. But there's going to be a lot that's going to be interesting with Kenley here over the next while.
What do you think about the shift taking, saying, only 2 infielders on one side of the bag?
Chris and I were having that conversation earlier this week. I like it from the standpoint that I've been so used to watching baseball over years, and you see a ball hit off the bat and it's going up the middle, and you think, well, that's a base hit, and all of a sudden there's somebody right there. And I guess you could still play a step to the side of the bag or whatever and still make that play. But I just think it kind of opens things up for the hitters a little bit.
Well, batting averages now are not what they used to be. And I've seen left-handed hitters stroke one into short right field, and you say, okay, that's a base hit. He's going to be rounding first. And there's an infielder standing out there about 20 feet in the grass who makes the play.
Yeah. Got to be frustrating.
Well, it's got to be, and you wonder how many hits under normal circumstances that has taken away the course of a season or so.
No doubt. Hey, before we wrap up this segment, Let me give you this day in Braves history. On September 15th, 1997, Fred McGriff's 2-out, 2-run homer off Giants closer Rod Beck caps a 4-run rally as Atlanta walks off San Francisco 5-4. Consecutive singles by Michael Tucker, Kenny Lofton, and Jeff Blauser resulted in a run, and Chipper Jones's field of choice ground out cut the deficit to 4-3 before the Crime Dog stole a victory. Kerry Lightenberg pitched a scoreless top of the ninth to get the win, his first of the year. That is this day in Braves history, and we are still accommodating prospective advertisers that want to sponsor this day in Braves history. So get at us. Hey, when we come back here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint, we will be talking a little high school football with this week's Main Street Preps picks. And later, we'll take a look at Mostradamus's thoughts on week 5. So come back after the break.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee, because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back to Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Maurice Patton, joined by Wilson Post Sports Editor, 2020 Tennessee Sports Writers Hall of Famer.
I appreciate the continual plug on the Hall of Fame thing, but we were honored in the same evening now. You were class of 2021.
And I have said this before, and I will say it again since you brought it up. If anything good came out of the pandemic, it was the opportunity to be recognized at the same time as you and Teresa Walker. Both of you all went in 2020. I was fortunate enough to be a 2021 inductee. The 2020 ceremony was postponed for pandemic issues and was held in 2021. And so all 6 of us, Mark Wiedmer, Larry Taft, and George Starr, also went in that night. But that was the biggest honor for me, was sharing that stage with you and Teresa.
Well, I feel the same way. What a group, and to me it was worth the wait. And we had a crowd in there that night.
No, you had a crowd in there that night. The thing was held at Cumberland University in Lebanon. It was a home game for you.
Well, there's something to be said for the home court advantage.
No doubt. Hey, we're going to talk a little high school football here as we do on Thursdays about this time. Main Street Prep's editorial staff, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, takes its shot at 10 games a week. And what we've got this week is, well, you've got a backyard brawl in Sumner County as Gallatin takes on Hendersonville at Hendersonville. That's a Friday night, 7:00 start. And it looks like Chris Yao has taken the visiting Green Wave 27-24 in this one. I've got Hendersonville 27-21. I don't know a whole lot about either of these teams, to be honest, but this game just strikes me as a home field advantage kind of matchup. Tommy, you got any thoughts about Gallatin, Hendersonville?
I can tell you about Gallatin. They played Mount Juliet first game of the year. Of course, that's in my coverage area.
Mm-hmm.
Gallatin only ran for 411 yards in that game. Gallatin has gone all in on what I call the military option offense. They're running Navy, Army, Air Force type slot, wing, option game. And they've got some guys who can make it happen. They got a fullback who's a freaking moose.
Is that the Brinkley kid?
He ran for 200 and so he wears number 0. And he ran for 200 some odd yards against Mount Juliet. When they get going, they're hard to contain and hard to get them off the field. Mount Juliet would score and then couldn't get Gallatin off the field.
Mm-hmm.
When they're playing somebody who doesn't, what's the best way to put this? To play that offense and you've only got 3 or 4 days to get ready for it is awfully tough. And nobody around here is running that I'm aware of except Gallatin. At the 5 or 6A level. Now, Hendersonville, perhaps, with all the years they've been wing tee and wing tee spread and some of the things they do, which there are certain similarities to that. Hendersonville might be the outlier in that, and maybe they know how to play against that. So I think we've got the chance for having a really bang-up football game there.
And, those two have been going at it for a long time. They don't like each other a whole lot.
It's not a lot of love lost between anybody over in Sumner County. And
yeah,
a lot of reasons for that. But those two in particular, when they go at it, it is, again, pretty serious.
Absolutely. Summit at Centennial. This is a game that's got, even here in week 5, I think it's got some real playoff implications here, because I think Brentwood and Ravenwood are pretty much cemented at the top of that region 765A, and then Indy, Summit, and Centennial probably battling for 2 playoff spots between the 3 of them, and Centennial coming in here at 3-1, I believe, and really feeling awfully good about themselves. Yao picks this one a 2-touchdown Centennial win up in Cool Springs, 28-13. And anybody that knows me knows I'm a 2-time CHS parent and would love to take the Cougars here, and I just couldn't do it. I've got Summit by a field goal, 24-21. I think they might have figured some things out over at Blackman this past weekend, and I'm interested to see how this one goes, but I think it's going to be a great ball game. Tommy, I know this one is really out of your neck of the woods, and I don't know that you've seen either Centennial or Summit this week, but this season, but any thoughts?
Well, Summit had that great football team a year ago, and you just wonder, now that we're 5 weeks into the season, have they had a chance to kind of find themselves and figure out who they are? Because they lost some really good players last year, and maybe it takes a little while to figure out what are we best at? And you can do all the off season and scrimmages and jamborees and things like that. But till you get out there on Friday night and the coaches get a chance to start looking at film and moving some pieces around, maybe you don't know everything about yourself.
Absolutely. Austin Harvey, the senior quarterback, threw 3 touchdown passes in the second half of that 54-21 win over at Blackman. So, like I said, or like you said, even, they might be starting to kind of figure some things out. So, it's going to be a heck of a ball game, I think. Portland at Clarksville Northeast. Again, I don't know a whole lot about either of these folks, but Chris and I both have Northeast close. He's got what is Northeast? They are the Eagles. Northeast.
Who's
30.
Who's the Vikings?
The Vikings are Northwest.
Okay.
Yes, the Northeast is the Eagles, but Yao's got the Eagles winning this one 30-28. I've got them winning at 17-14. Portland has kind of been up and down so far this year.
Well, and you know, it wasn't too long ago that Portland had a lot of downs. So now they do have some ups to build on. And it seems like Portland is trying to make a move. And it's you know, kind of fun to watch because, you know, at one time, Roger Perry was at Portland and took them to the state finals. Football's a big deal there in Portland.
Yeah. Even as close as they are to Kentucky, where basketball is a big thing. But they like their football. They like it better these days because, like you said, there have been a few more ups for the Panthers than previously. We spoke to Donaldson Christian coach Paul Wade earlier in the show in Coach's Corner. His Wildcats come in at 2-2 tomorrow night as they take on visiting Columbia Academy at 2-1. And Chris and I both have the host Wildcats winning this one. Chris has got it bigger than I do. He's got Donaldson Christian winning 28-14. I've got DCA 28-24. For one reason in particular, and Coach Wade mentioned it, Monte Baldwin, the sophomore running back for Columbia Academy, I think he's had like at least 2 touchdowns in each of his 3 games to this point. And he's averaging right at 150 yards per game. So that's a guy that DCA is gonna see a lot of. Conversely, though, as he mentioned, Ashton Jones is going to be a guy that Columbia Academy's defense is going to see a lot of. So I think this is really going to be a grinded out, I don't want to say slobber knocker, but it might kind of turn into 3 yards in a cloud of dust between those two.
The only point of reference I have, Mo, is DCA Friendship 2 weeks ago, and there were a couple of different situations. Each team got a safety on a bad snap in that football game, but Friendship got out and was able to throw the ball against DCA. Now they've got the Weekly kid who's the quarterback, and they've got a Montgomery young man who's a senior who had an unofficial visit to Notre Dame right after that DCA game. He caught a couple of touchdown passes. He's 6'3" and can run and can go up and get the football. I don't know that that Columbia Academy would have the ability to throw the football against DCA. If they keep that thing on the ground, I think DCA's got a really good shot in that football game, unless they've got the way to get that thing up and to throw the ball around a little bit. And you know a lot more about Columbia Academy than I do.
Well, I will tell you, he mentioned a number 5 also. That is the quarterback, Connor Rawson, and he's a good-sized kid. He's about 6'3", 205 maybe, and they've got some guys that they can throw it to, and I've been waiting on that because I just feel like teams are going to continue to creep up, and creep down into the box to try to stop Baldwin. I think they've got some ability to throw it around a little bit. How much and how well, I'm not sure. We might find out tomorrow night. So should be interesting as both of them open Division 2A Middle Region play. Over in Cross Plains, unbeaten Harpeth takes on East Robertson in the Battle of the Indians. Yeah, I was taking the host Indians 34-27. I've got the visiting Indians 21-16. And I'm not sure that there is a whole lot of difference between these two teams, but I think Harpeth was ranked last week. Maybe I'm not sure if they still are or not. I've not seen the rankings this week, but I think as close as those two are, it should be a close ball game.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Harpeth, Watertown, East Robertson, they're all in that same region, right?
Are they? That makes sense that would be a region ball game.
White's Creek, I think, might be in there. White's Creek is at Watertown this week, and
okay.
I want to say they've played. Of course, I've got 7 high schools to keep up with in Centennial, and sometimes all these regions run together. But Harpeth, pretty competitive football team, and if they're 4-0 going in right now, you got to feel like they've got a pretty good shot.
Yeah, I would think so. Big Division II Class AAA matchup Friday night as the undefeated Big Red of Montgomery Bell Academy goes to Father Ryan over on 65 at Harding Place. MBA coming off a big win over Chattanooga McCallie, kind of avenging, if a regular season win avenges a state championship loss, and that's what the Big Red did this past weekend. Father Ryan coming off a big win over Cane Ridge. Chris and I both have MBA winning this one, and we both got Father Ryan with 24 points. Chris has got MBA winning it by 3 touchdowns, 45-24. I've got MBA 41-24. Really like Marcel Reed, the Ole Miss commit, and the weapons he has at his disposal offensively. And it's just tough to look past that win over McCallie last week. This team may be just a step ahead of some of the others that they put on the field the last couple of years.
Well, and Division II, AAA, a little bit out of my realm, but again, just keeping up with it on the peripheral. NBA, they've got it going on, and Ryan with a good win over, I'm sure, a talented Cane Ridge team, but the victory over McCallie certainly speaks to me.
Absolutely. Franklin Road Academy goes to Lipscomb Academy. FRA coming off a win over Columbia Academy last week, but I think it just looked like Lipscomb Academy is a different animal right now. They are the number 1 team in the Main Street Preps top 25, and they are clearly that for a reason. Chris has got Lipscomb doubling up the Panthers 42-21. I've got Lipscomb winning at 42-27. I don't know what or who it takes to slow Lipscomb down, but I just don't feel like FRA is it.
Well, and you've both got FRA scoring either 21, 27 points. I think they're going to be hard pressed to score more than a couple of times.
Yeah, you might be right. We might be a little bit generous with that. Game that you mentioned off air, White County at Mount Juliet tomorrow night, 7:00 kick.
Take the over.
Well, you feel like White County is going to score with Malachi Dowell. This kid, if you can have a Mr. Football favorite through week 4, he's got to be one.
I tell you what I think of that kid. I put him on the front of my sports section, and he's not from Wilson County. Last year, Malachi Dowell rushed for 2,000 yards and who knows how many touchdowns for White County. He had about 1,000 yards against the 3 Wilson County teams in the region, Mount Juliet, Green Hill, and Wilson Central. 1,000 in 3 games. He is phenomenal. Mount Juliet can score, and they've played great defense the last couple of weeks. Mount Juliet has been over 40 points. They've shut out back-to-back opponents, but in my conversation with Trey Perry, he tells me, he said, you do everything right. Everything right defensively. And then Malachi Dowell is sitting back there like a cartoon character with his wheels turning, just waiting and patient and waiting for something to happen. And boom, he's not gone for 6 yards. He could be gone for 60. The kid ran track at White County. He had a knee injury, had an ACL that he blew up as a sophomore, came back with a vengeance and with 2,000 yards last year, and through 4 games this year, he's got 1,200 yards and 19 touchdowns. He's coming off a 7-touchdown performance against Cookeville. If I wasn't going to be at Lebanon playing at Coffee County over in Manchester, I would be at that game. I would buy a ticket for that game.
I don't think they'd make you buy a ticket at Mount Juliet, but at any rate, I think that speaks to the game that we expect it to be. Yow's got White County with the 28-27 win at Mount Juliet. I'm thinking that Trey and his defensive staff may figure something out. I've got Mount Juliet by a touchdown, 34-27 over the Spartans of White County, but I think it's going to be a barn burner. Bet the over. The Battle of the Woods, Brent at Raven tomorrow night. Yow has Ravenwood coming off of that 45-31 loss to Oakland last week, bouncing back with a 34-21 win over the Bruins in Region 7 6A play. I've got Ravenwood 35-31. This game rarely disappoints. I don't think tomorrow will be any exception. But I do think Ravenwood is probably the class of that region right now.
Well, you put up 31. They put up 31 points against Oakland, right? That's serious.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Serious. They can generate offense if they can do that against the likes of Oakland. I'm going with Ravenwood as well. Nobody asked me, but there you go.
Speaking of Kevin Creasy and the Patriots, following that win over Ravenwood, they continue on the road. It's not nearly as far as they go to Siegel, which kind of planted its flag last week with that 31-28 win over the Lebanon Blue Devils. Both Chris and I have Oakland winning this one pretty big. He's got 45-20. I've got 45-17. But Tommy, you saw this Siegel team last week. What are your thoughts on them?
And I'm going to get this kid's name because it is certainly worth remembering his name, the quarterback for Siegel, number 10. And give me just as I rifle through here. Again, I've got 7 high schools in Cumberland to keep up with, and it just drives me nuts sometimes. I don't remember quite like I used to. Thomas Santel, Santel, the quarterback. He's a junior for Siegel. Mo, I never compare a high school kid to a pro kid. I just don't think that's fair. But he did things in that football game against Lebanon, against a really solid defensive unit, where he extends plays with his feet. You can't put too much pressure on him because he'll pop out of the pocket. And when he is on the run, he never gives up on a play. He made a couple of throws that you say, okay, we'll let him make that throw because he's on the run. He's 12 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He's under duress, and he completed them. He completed 2 of them for touchdowns. He is a play maker. Now, is it going to be enough against the Patriots? No. But they love that 2-man option game, that inside zone, that zero inside veer. They're fun to watch offensively, and they've got just enough playmakers around him to make him go.
Worth noting. If you want to see the rest of the Main Street Sports, Main Street Preps picks, be sure to go to mainstreetpreps.com. Russell Venozzi leading the pack after going 10-0 last week, 31-9 on the year. Chris and I are tied at 26-14 after he went 9-1 and I went 7-3 last week. So trying to bounce back. And real quick before we get out of here, let me give you Nostradamus' picks on some of these other games. We mentioned Donaldson Christian and Columbia Academy. Columbia Central travels to Nolensville in Region 6-5A play, and the Knights are playing some pretty good ball right now. They are 4-0 overall, 1-0 in region play. They're number 14 in the MSP top 25 and number 5 in the Associated Press top 10, and don't see them getting slowed down this week. I've got Nolensville by 10 in that one. Forest is at Summertown in Region 5-2A play. Forest has taken a couple of surprising losses, but I think they get it right this weekend against a young Summertown team. In Region 7-6A again, Independence is 2-2 overall following their 45-14 loss last week to Pope Prep. They go to Franklin. The Admirals still looking for their first win of the season. I think they'll still be looking after Friday night. Again, in Region 5-2A, Loretto, which jumped out to a heck of a start but lost last week to Wayne County 33-23. They come to Mount Pleasant tomorrow night. Mount Pleasant's 3-0 overall, 1-0 in region play, and they are ranked 9th in this week's AP Class 2A poll, and should build on that. I've got Mount Pleasant by a touchdown at home. Should be a heck of a ball game, though. Also undefeated is Richland at 3-0. They go 2-2 Cascade, and I think Cascade is going to be smarting a little bit. They've not played since Cascade has played. They lost to Mount Pleasant at home 2 weeks ago, went to Huntland and won 31-0, and I think Cascade gets the Raiders by a touchdown. In a battle of winless teams, Spring Hill goes to Lincoln County. Both are 0-4, 0-1 in Region 6-5A. I think Spring Hill is going to hit on a couple of big plays because they've got some guys that can make them. And I think Spring Hill gets out of the pit with a win by less than a touchdown. But I tell you, Tommy, we remember when the pit was you just didn't go down there and win.
It was like Christians and the Lions.
Yep.
And the Lions were, they were given 7 points. The Lebanon went down to Lincoln County last year and pretty well handled the Falcons, and it was unlike any Lincoln County team that I had ever seen. In fact, the week of that game, they had changed coaches midway through the season. And
well, that must be the game coming up next week then, because Spring Hill last year they played Lincoln County in Spring Hill. They both came in winless. Lincoln County won that game in double overtime, 21-20. It was a delayed game because of weather and that kind of thing. It's a double overtime. Lincoln County wins it. They fired their coach like the next Monday.
Yeah, fired him right
after a win.
After a win. And they were trying to do some things the right way. And of course, it's been a year since I've seen Lincoln County, but the opening of Fayetteville City School has really hurt them. At one time, Fayetteville was one of several small schools in Lincoln County. When Lincoln County opened, everybody went to that school. Everybody knows the history about the success Lincoln County had in the beginning, and then Lewis Thompson rolls in there and wins a couple of state championships. But it's not that way anymore.
Lebanon graduate, Lewis
Lebanon
Thompson,
Hall of Famer, former Alabama football player, TSSAA Hall of Famer, Lewis Thompson. He was my brother John's head coach when John played at Lebanon. Lewis, there's some Lewis Thompson stories out there about his tenure at Lebanon High, both as a player and then later as a coach before he went to Unicoi County and then wound up at Lincoln County, and the rest is history.
The rest is history, absolutely.
But Lincoln County, the Falcon football team's really not what it has been before, and they're in a building mold. So Spring Hill, I think, certainly got a better than average chance to go down there and get a win.
Absolutely. And again, we talked about Summit and Centennial up in Cool Springs tomorrow night. Centennial trying to take a big step forward in with its postseason chances. It would be their first They've not been to the playoffs since 2017, so this would be a big step in that direction if the Cougars were to get this win at home. And if there's a game that I wouldn't mind being wrong about, it's this one, because I've got the Spartans here by a field goal. So we'll see how that one goes. Again, you can see Mostradamus's picks at mainstreetmurray.com. 7-0 last week, 6-0 the week before, 24-3 on the year. So I know a little something. Anyway, that's going to wrap us up here on Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Tommy, appreciate you stepping in, and we will definitely keep your number on file.
Hey, pal, good talking to you, and I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. You guys, we appreciate you. Come back tomorrow, 2:00. Yao should be back with us, and I'm sure he'll have some interesting stories to tell. So, for Tommy Bryan, for Justin Kulik back there somewhere, I'm Maurice Patton. Thanks for joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll see you tomorrow.
Justin.
Is Justin back there?
He's in the room.
Okay.
Can you kill it from your end?
I guess I could. No, I don't know that I can, to be honest.
Let me do this.
Okay.
Justin, we're out. Okay, he's dumping it right now. See you, folks.
Bye, y'all.